My name's John. I'm a software engineer with about 10 years of experience, and I just concluded a 3 1/3 hour GPT-based RPG gaming stream, and I'm here to sum it up, hopefully in about 10 minutes. We'll see if I can do it that quickly. So why am I summing up this gaming stream? A few reasons. One is that Opus Clips, today I learned, cannot handle over 3 hours, and the stream was over 3 hours. So typically I use Opus Clips to take my live streams and summarize the highlights. The video was too long, so I'm doing a manual summary here instead of the automated summary. Why do I want to do a summary or highlights at all? That's because this style of gaming is collaborative and players are dropping in and dropping out. And I want a viewer to be able to catch up on what's happened quickly so that they can effectively participate if they want in the next stream. Instead of needing to watch hours and hours, they can watch minutes and minutes. A link to the original stream will be able to be found in the description. The name is only now created in retrospect, which is Aria's Tale, Chapter 1. And that is because the character Aria was created as the result of non-deterministic generation by GPT collaborating with the chat audience. So this game was live streamed, and Aria, the character, was actually created by the audience. I had no plan for a character called Aria. And to highlight that, which is I think the coolest thing about this style of gameplay, to highlight that, I'm deciding to name the series after her. I also got a huge kick out of this because I have a background as a programmer, and Aria attributes are hugely important in web development. Again, this was entirely unintentional, but it's another reason that I'm naming the series after that character. Collaborative here means not only that it's multiplayer, which it is, so I was running GM and my brother and sister were player characters, but it also means the audience is participating, driving characters, and impacting the game world. That happened a number of times in interesting ways in this episode. In this version, we use GPT-4 with DALL-E because DALL-E allows us to have images. I'll throw one of these images on the screen now. And we're literally using the latest GPT-4, so cutting edge that during the stream, they rolled out a new version. So you can see in this original stream, you can see the UI here. And if you go later in the stream, it now looks like this. So they literally updated GPT as we were playing. That's how cutting edge the version of GPT that we're using is. However, the mode of gameplay is AI assisted, and that's a generic term to highlight the fact that we're not coupled to GPT-4. We use GPT-4 in this case, it went fabulously well, but in future versions, we might use different AI. And I'd also like to eventually turn this into a book, and I'm not sure if there's copyright on these DALL-E created images. So in a future version, we might use different AI for reasons like that, and just to play around with different AI tools and see what works well. There are AI out there created specifically for role-playing. We might want to investigate those. So we're saying that this is AI assisted, not specifying GPT-4 or LLM. GPT-4 with DALL-E is multimodal, so it's not a pure LLM. And you miss out on the rich immersiveness of images if you stick with a pure LLM. Cool. So that's kind of what we mean by collaborative AI-assisted RPG. And last stage setting note before we get into the events of the actual game episode. Last stage setting is that I'm a programmer and a gamer. My audience vibes with this already. A lot of us are learning to code or interested in coding or already code. And when I game, it's often RPG and strategy. So I wanted to create an on-brand campaign, and I think I did so. So the campaign brand is sci-fi, and it's going to draw elements from at least 10 sources. So Sword Art Online, specifically the Einkrad arc, Dot Hack Sign, another RPG that has memes and tropes related to MMOs, World of Warcraft, RuneScape, other MMORPGs, and other animes that use memes and tropes related to MMORPGs. Also The Matrix, the concept of Neuralink, and other brain-machine interfaces, whether implanted or not, the metaverse, the many-worlds hypothesis in physics, the simulation theory concept. In fact, I'm thinking of calling the broader series the Simulation Theory series or something like that, where Aria's Tale is just one branch of story in this game universe. So if you invest the time to learn about what's going on, it will pay dividends and reap benefits because this game universe will be used to tell many stories. You'll get many hours of entertainment. This isn't going to be like when you log on to Netflix and you watch the first season and there's never a second season and you're like, oh, I'm so invested and now it's gone. It won't be like that. And then other topics related to religion, ethics, philosophy, war, greed, government power, academia, technology, and even anarcho-capitalism. So overall, setting the stage, I hope that things are close enough to things that you've heard of to make them understandable, but far away enough from normal to keep it surprising, entertaining, engaging, and thought-provoking. Okay, so with that background, let's get into the actual recap of the first chapter. So I started by prompting GPT. I said, let's make a game inspired by this. It'll be somewhat following D&D. Sometimes I invoke stat sheets and sometimes we play it narrative. And I tell GPT that you and I will be co-narrators, authors, and game masters. I'm telling this to GPT, and I'm the one driving the prompts here. Okay, so I co-GM with GPT-4 in the DALL-E mode. I set the stage with the prompt, and I'm playing the stream with my brother Mike and my sister Jessica. The game opens with a location check. Totally unpredicted to me. They roll the same number, which means they spawn in the same region. It's one of the reasons I love this non-deterministic die rolling, stuff like that. So they spawn in the same region, and then we do memory checks. Jessie does not remember who she is. So GPT generates her person as Eidolon the Elven Rogue. And Mike does remember who he is. So because he remembers, he gets to remember creating a character, and he gets to name the character, and he ends up picking a human tank male named Tank. Isn't that something that a gamer would do? Is they would make a tank and name it Tank. Cool. And then the audience created this third character, Aria. GPT says that they spawn in the mystical Forest of Echoes with some notable features, including the Lake of Whispers, the Ruins of Eldarion, and the Whispering Glade. Given these characters, Jessie's character, the Elven Rogue, has the highest initiative, and so they go first. But before the first turn is taken, Mike's player hears a faint, like the human, not Tank, but the human, hears a faint doorbell in real life. Remembering that it's pizza, he tries to log out, and the game seems to glitch. He cannot see a logout button, and the in-game sky turns from a bright sunny day into a burnt orange. An enormous shadowy figure states that the players are no longer able to log out. They will be trapped in the game until the final boss on floor 100 is defeated. Dying in the game will result in irreparable damage to their brain in the real world, possibly including real-world death. Every floor will now have a super powerful boss. The shadowy figure suggests that players join into groups or alliances, warning them that the bosses have been made so powerful that a single player, even at the max level, cannot defeat any boss, not even the weakest boss, which would be the boss on the first floor where they are currently at. So given this setup, Jessie goes first. She has the faster Elven Rogue. She awakens in the heart of the forest at level 2, apparently grinding monsters, although she has no recollection of getting there. She decides to go to the Lake of Whispers in an attempt to recall her identity and understand more about this game world. She follows the sound of running water, but it turns out to be a monster making that sound, and we have a picture of this. This was our first picture. So there's this plant monster that's making a hissing noise that sounds like running water. She ultimately defeats this plant monster using her combination of archery and Fey ancestry ability. We have a picture of that as well. That Fey ancestry ability creating the lighting effect. It's like a spiritual arrow sort of thing. Then we go over to Tank. Tank spawns in the Hidden Grove, which is a safe area of the forest. He bides his time hiding in observation. Aria spawns in a place called the Crossroads of Elements. Not necessarily a safe place, but she manages not to run into a monster and quickly goes to the nearby town. Then we're back to Eidolon, who, after defeating this foe, scales the tallest nearby tree so they can get a view on the map, and they see Tank from the treetop. They're able to see Tank. Then Tank decides to go back to the town. So remember that Tank succeeded on the memory check, so actually remembers coming from the town to this area, decides to go back to the town and encounters a squirrel monster. So here is Tank encountering the squirrel monster. You can notice that Tank has a spear. And the squirrel was described as larger than average. I think it's hilarious that GPT turned this into larger than Tank, which was not my intent, but that's what you get with non-deterministic play. There's no reason for the squirrel monster to be carrying a sword and shield. That's just what GPT decided to do. And I think it's hilarious. I love it. So Tank was unable to defeat this monster, but was able to flee and get back to town. Idolin then, watching from the treetop, sees how to get back to town and decides to go to town. Now I'll bring in my amazing art. Let's also show you the gaming channel and the die roller that we're using as we play. I might call for a 1d6, a 1d20, and so on. And here you can see the audience rolling. So Levy Builds was not in the game, but is one of the audience members contributing to the game. And by the way, you can join this community. That's Latterly.io. So you can scroll down, go to the Discord in the footer or in the community tab, and you'll be able to join the Latterly Discord and come over to the gaming Slack channel. And here I drew by hand a rough world map. So in the lower left, we see Idolin spawned in the heart of the forest. On the right, in the green safe area, Tank spawned in the hidden grove. The brown area is the town. Tank headed to the town and encountered the squirrel. Idolin, seeing Tank go to town, makes their own beeline to the town. And Idolin, the stealthy rogue, does see monsters in a couple cases, but is able to avoid them and get to the town without having to engage in further combat beyond that original plant monster. Hundreds of characters are assembling in the town. Aria is the first one there, followed by Tank, and last of all, Idolin. Aria is able to assemble 80 at one point, 80 players into their own guild. So this is the largest guild, and then we read about other teams as well. Here are 5 of the other largest teams. Tank ends up trying to join the Shield Bearers. This is a small group of 2 warriors, a mysterious mage, and a healer. They welcome him joining, but they ask him to complete an initiation test called the Gauntlet of Valor. Again, completely made up by GPT. I had no concept of this subquest when I kicked off the campaign. Mike, playing Tank, says, after hearing about the quest, says, never mind, I actually don't want to go through with it. It sounds too dangerous, and they won't let him back out. At this point, you've expressed interest. Our lives are on the line. We won't have you back out. So they coerce him into this dungeon and force him to do the gauntlet, where he's ultimately killed by a metallic water elemental golem. Even though he's killed, the healer revives him, so he comes to on a ritual pyre, and the healer says, like, welcome to the team, basically. Like, you proved your loyalty. So Tank actually dies and then is revived in the game. Idolin comes to town last, tries to track down the man that Idolin saw. Unbeknownst to Idolin, the man's name is Tank. We know that. Idolin doesn't know that. Idolin is persuasive and charismatic. Lots of people are willing to talk to Idolin. The problem is that when Idolin asks them about the warrior that came in from the forest after the monstrous vision, there are many such warriors. So Idolin gets too many leads and can't track them all down in time. Ultimately, Idolin fails to track down Tank this night, although Idolin succeeds in joining a group of 3 elemental mages and 2 scouts called the Elementalists. We learn that there are a group of mercenaries in town, although we don't know who is funding them. We also learn that Idolin has a neutral moral compass, perhaps fitting for the elven rogue he is. The next morning, the shield bearers, this is the last point of plot in the chapter, the next morning, the shield bearers hear that Aria's group has cleared the Lake of Whispers. The regional first floor boss was not found in that area. The shield bearers decide to leave town to train, and the healer who leads them decides that the lake is a perfect training location after hearing that it's been cleared by Aria's group. On the way there, we learn about the identities of Tank's new teammates, the healer leader Alara, a mysterious mage Gavriel, powerful warrior named Kale, and a quicker warrior named Lyra. And they go to train on the edge of the lake, and they encounter a lizard monster. We have another picture of this. So they encounter the lizard monster, and they basically end up defeating the lizard monster. Here is Lyra launching an attack on the lizard monster. After the battle is concluded, Tank and the other warriors have some success training a phalanx formation. And so ends Chapter 1 with the triumph of the shield bearers over the lizard monster. So I hope you'll tune in and stay tuned for Chapter 2. Some indications that many people are trying to get up to level 100 and get out of this game world. There are whispers that some characters in the game are not on board with that broader goal. And maybe the mercenaries have something to do with this. We don't have specific names at this point in time. Eidolon is still trying to track down Tank. So tune in to see what happens next.